Hello, everybody. This is Bobo the Alien Pig-Face Boy. Coming live at you.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 4th episode of the Untimely Truth. I'm joined with my friend Chase.
Hello.
And I'm Steve. And what are we going to talk about today, dude?
Aliens.
Aliens for the most
Yeah.
part, yeah. Like, stuff ancillary to aliens, I guess. Like Area 51, Roswell, all that good shit.
Very popular yet very unknown topic.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's how do you know about it? Because we don't even know if they exist. But we're going to talk about it.
The debate is up.
The debate is on. It's raging on Discord. It's raging on Reddit.
Hell yeah. Let's start this off the way that it's going to be the best for everybody. Hey, Steve.
No. Is it a bad joke?
I like it.
But that's a sign.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
What do you call a tick on the moon?
This sounds, I don't know.
A lunatic.
We gotta stop doing this. I feel like derails everything we try to do from a further standpoint. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't threaten to leave 4 episodes in a row. And you just, like, I don't even, at first I thought, oh, it's ironically funny. She's finding it ironically funny. But actually watching you real life react to these jokes, you find it legitimately hilarious.
It's good.
Which I think is incredible. I think that's sweet. I wish that I could find that legitimately hilarious.
You just gotta understand humor
Yeah.
at its core.
I guess so. I'm really glad we took a shot right before this, so that you're just, like, right ready to laugh at your own jokes. It's my birthday. So we gotta do a shot. Yeah, we gotta,
Yeah,
I'm a
this
few
is
drinks
a
deep
very, very special episode because it is Steven's 34th birthday.
Yes, I'm 34. I'm aging in dog years since I was 20.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's rough. No, it is my birthday,
This
so I
big
think
old
that's...
2-5?
Yeah, so I picked, like, my number one favorite nerd topic, which is aliens. I fucking love to talk about aliens. It's, like, the one hope that I still have left. Like, I'm skeptical about everything, but, like, I just want aliens to be around so bad.
Totally.
Like, that'd just be cool.
Just judging you from afar.
No, to beam me up.
Oh,
So, like, just,
beam you
I'm
up, Scotty.
working at the till, and just... Hello, Stephen. We have chosen you from the overworld to come join us on our ship. Can you fit this Coca-Cola-sized probe in your asshole? And I'll go, why, yes, aliens. I've been practicing
for years.
For years for this probing.
I'm super down to start with some history on the very first UFO sighting. How's your hair doing, bud?
It's caught in my hat, dude. Great visual joke for the podcast.
Sorry.
No worries. It's better if you pointed at me.
Right, I had to because I thought I was going to have to get up and help you. So.
Yeah, I know. I was trapped in my own hat.
UFOs and strange sightings aren't something that's just been happening for like the last 100 years.
No.
It's been happening since the beginning of time, since the beginning of people, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then people just started recording it.
Yeah,
whenever they could.
Yeah, as a certain phenomenon, maybe. Like, not just wondering, but, like, reporting it as a UFO phenomenon is recent. But the history of seeing things in the sky that we don't know what they are is...
Right, and, like, even, like, back in the day, people would just write it in their diaries.
Yeah.
Now, they would write it very poetically. So, to be fair, we don't know how far-stretched this may be.
Yeah, it's Shakespearean in nature.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to go all the way back to 1639 on March 1st. Talk to a guy named John Winthrop.
Oh, Johnny W.
Johnny W.
Yeah.
The one and only.
Johnny Dopes!
Johnny Dopes! John Winthrop was rowing his boat across the Charles River when he witnessed a giant light in the sky. He was accompanied by 2 of his fellow Puritans, and they couldn't explain why they were seeing this gigantic light. Because there's nothing...
There's no electricity.
1639.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
What's going on?
So this is the diary entry. I'm just going to read it to you. When it stood still, it flamed up, and was about 3 yards square. And when it ran, it was contracted into the figure of a swine.
Okay.
Which is weird, because in my head I just see like a bright little pig running around the sky.
Yeah, like a cool Pink Floyd album.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. They say that the light stayed and flashed at them for over 3 hours. So some people, their explanation for this, aside from like the pig thing, is that it's the Ignis Factuous, which is like the wisp or the will-o-wisp.
Okay, I've heard of this legend before.
Yeah, so not even a legend, it actually happens, not so much now because of pollution,
Okay.
but it used to happen a lot over marshlands, like the Charles River that they were on. The combustion of gas from all the decaying,
methane and stuff.
all of the
anaerobic
organic
bacteria.
matter,
Absolutely.
for sure. It actually makes a light, and I don't know if you've ever seen a video of it, but it's a legit
I know exactly
light.
what you're talking about.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Would recommend looking that up. If it was back and forth like they were saying in the diary entry, would necessarily be a will-o-wisp, right? Because they don't move.
Multiple things were, firing off.
Right, but that's so rare.
But it's a very rare.
We've
occurrence,
never
for sure.
seen that. So
was this in England? Sorry.
This was in the States, actually.
Oh, okay.
So he wrote another entry in his diary in 1644, so like 5 years later. The same light exposed itself to fishermen on their way to Boston. He wasn't there, but they told him about it.
But it's from Boston. They're like, oh, we saw some wicked lights. Oh shit, we saw some fucking great big lights, bro.
This time, it spoke to them. So the light actually spoke to them as it dashed across the sky, trying to lure the fishermen towards the light. But to me, that seems like way more of like a siren folklore tale than an alien.
Or it's just like, hey, yo, I'm a light.
Yeah.
Sorry, Boston.
Sorry, we love you, Boston. God.
You like them apples.
But yeah, I thought that was really interesting because so it's the first ever like UFO categorized sighting. It could have been multiple things.
Yeah.
Especially because they were in the ocean both times, like saltwater, and then they were with multiple people who saw it. So witnesses, they were like, has to be true. Look how many people were there.
Yeah, but there's a lot of instances of like people seeing a paranormal phenomenon, like 200 people seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could be a real thing that's just interpreted as a paranormal phenomenon, right?
Totally, yeah.
But I mean, even in the research I did, like the one guy who does a bunch of stuff about Area 51 is like, everybody who looks up here is like, they either see Jesus or they see an alien, or like, he's just like so pissed off at people being in his like desert backyard in lawn chairs. But I mean, like, people are always going to be curious about it.
Yeah, I mean, if I saw like a really weird light in the sky, I would automatically assume it was like a drone. But that's just because we have the technology.
Yeah, or
but back in like the 1600s, I'd be like, the fuck is this thing?
For sure.
Like, So I get where John Winthrop's coming from.
Yeah. That's an old one, though. That's
really cool. Yeah, I like that one. Where are we headed now, buddy? You gonna tell me about Roswell or what?
I could talk about Roswell. So it's 1947. World War II's ended. Guys have come back. They picked up their girlfriends. They're all happy.
Right.
Living their life. In a tiny town in New Mexico, they experienced a super fucking weird night. So Roswell, New Mexico is a tiny community, mostly home to farmers and miners, cattle ranchers, that kind of. But for a few days in the late 40s, it could have been home to some aliens.
Oh, okay.
Out of space, maybe. We don't know. I don't know. There's two ways you can look at Roswell, Riley. It was an encounter with otherworldly beings, or it was a simple weather balloon. So that's the two, like, some people are like, yeah, it's definitely aliens. And then NASA people especially are like, it was a weather balloon.
So, like, do these weather balloons, like, I in my head, I've never seen one.
Not that big. Like, I watched a documentary about it. They're kind of about 4 feet in diameter, and they just float around, measure barometric pressure and all that stuff.
Sure.
Some of them are bigger.
Okay.
But they're made out of the same stuff that, like, chip bags are made out of, like that mylar material.
Oh, right.
So that
conducts well.
Yeah, and it also, like, it doesn't condense on itself. Like, you try to crush a chip bag and it just opens again, right?
Yeah.
So they wanted that kind of thing because it holds the gas well and it's easy to expand.
Totally.
So people in 1947, though, had never seen mylar before. Like, chip bags were not like what we're used to chip bags now. Like, we're totally used to this material. It wouldn't seem weird, but in 1947, it would seem super weird because they'd never seen it before.
Yeah. So
there was accounts of this self-healing metal in Roswell. Like, when people found this stuff, they're like, oh, you try to crumple it up like tin and it just spreads back out. And, like, they're like, that's alien. Like, that sounds super weird.
Because at the time, obviously,
Yeah, so the rancher who found the debris was a guy named W.W. Mack.
Oh,
W.W. Mack. W.W. Mack. So he found wreckage on his sizable property in Lincoln County, New Mexico, which is just a few miles outside of Roswell. So several flying disc and flying saucer stories have been kind of floating around the area around that time, but most of them were kind of just planes or just stuff that the government had been testing, because there is a government Air Force base really close to there, and they were testing a lot of planes that people wouldn't have been used to seeing with blinking lights and they move really fast and stuff. In July 1947, he finds this wreckage on his property. He kind of calls the attention of the press, and so the RAF, which is the Roswell Army Airfield, which is the airfield that's right close to where he found the wreckage, they came out with a statement, and they said, the many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force Roswell Army Airfield was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers and the Sheriff's Office of Chaves County. So that was an official release by the Army Air Force Base.
Whoa.
Like, we found a flying saucer, it's real, this is what it is, and the next day they released another statement stating that the rumors regarding the flying disc are false. It's fake. So the U.S. Army officials quickly reversed themselves, saying the flying saucer claim was bogus. They found debris, but it was from a weather balloon, and they released photographs of Major Marcel posing with the
weather
debris.
balloon.
Yeah. Like,
so someone screwed up there.
Yeah.
Maybe,
but for many decades, people were like, oh, it's definitely aliens. It's definitely...
Yeah.
But it came out later, in 1994, actually, that the U.S. Air Force released a report where they conceded the weather balloon story had always been bogus. It was never real. But the wreckage came from a spy device. So it's still something that the U.S. government created. But it wasn't as simple as a weather balloon. They wanted the Soviets... Oh, yeah, it's nothing. It's a weather balloon. Who cares about it? Because it was a prototype to what would become spy satellites.
This is just after World War II, right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense then if they had a spy balloon.
Yeah, it's the Cold War.
Of course,
It's the beginning. It's ramping up to the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
And they're already worried about what the Soviets are doing. So they want this balloon that's almost like a satellite.
Yeah.
It was like a proto-satellite. So it was a balloon that flew so high over Soviet radar that it wouldn't be detected.
Oh yeah, would you want the Soviets to know about your spy cam balloon?
I guess not.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be like, oh, look, it's a very, very interesting balloon you have there.
This is interesting.
It's neat, no balloon for you. Yeah.
They'll take it, destroy the media. That's really interesting. See, because everybody, when you talk about aliens, like, the first thought that comes to mind is Roswell, right? Because it's such a big thing.
And that community runs itself up of being, like, the place where aliens landed.
Totally, yeah.
Which is cool. Like, might as well take care of the marketing yourself and just, small business.
I mean, I'm sure they have a bunch of cafes there and stuff.
They do. They have the alien. They have all these, like...
Oh, the alien? That's so... See?
Yeah,
these are the people who get my jokes. I need to go there.
Yeah, those are the people that like you. So, fucking shit.
Oh my god.
But what was kind of cool is Roswell later became known as, like, the capital of, alien sightings and all that. But other people, that's been called a boil on the ass of the alien UFO community because it just makes them look really silly. Which, like, I'm part of the alien... We are fucking silly. Like...
Yeah, of course. I mean, anybody who thinks of stuff and has opinions on it without any solid proof is going to be silly, in other people's eyes.
I don't have any proof, but it's just fun to speculate.
Totally.
And, like, of any of, like, the unfounded claims, alien, Sasquatch, my top two. And an alien Sasquatch, we've talked about Sasquatch crossovers before.
Alien Squatch.
Alien Squatch, yeah. There's a lot of crossover potential.
We're gonna have so many seasons of Zombie Squatch, Alien Squatch.
Have you ever seen Howard and the Hendersons?
No.
They have, like, a pet Sasquatch. And John Lithgow, the guy from Third Rock from the Sun,
Okay.
he's like, we don't want you anymore, get out of here. And it made me so sad when I was a kid, because it was like their pet Sasquatch and they were friends.
Oh.
And he's like, go into the woods. Like, it's for his own good. He's like trying to be mean to him, get rid of him.
It's like E.T.
Yeah, it's very fucking sad.
You said, Roswell's right after World War II.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a little road trip back to World War II
I
for
love
a minute.
World War II.
Not a lot of people did. But,
well, okay.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I know what
Put
you
it this
mean.
way, though, but when I'm hungover, I watch Holocaust documentaries. Like, just to feel worse than I already do. I don't know why, but I do.
Shameful.
Yeah. I don't know if it's shameful. I'm just like, I want to feel, like, even sadder than I do right now.
It's a problem.
Is it? Is that a bad thing to do?
I think that's a bad thing.
I found it kind of cathartic.
It's definitely not therapeutic.
It's not?
No.
I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing self-care wrong.
Yeah,
Not
hashtag self-care
being
Steve
hungover
is
and
not.
watching Holocaust documentaries, but I'm wrong, I guess.
Taking a road trip back to World War II as Steven is hungover and watches his terrible documentary.
Well,
It's said that the Nazis created advanced aircrafts that surpassed all other airplane and flight technology of that time.
yeah, they were ahead of the game.
They were ahead of the game, for sure. They apparently kept their secrets, as well as the people who created them, in an underground bunker somewhere in Antarctica.
Oh, I've heard this kind of like Nazi base Antarctica
Right?
before. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay. During the war, there were many sightings of these aircraft used as surveillance, but when shot at, kind of like the weather balloon, right? When shot at, they took little to no damage.
Weird. Okay.
So this is a little weird. So
Yeah.
made out of a different material, right? What are you making you stuff out of?
Not out of chip bags.
Not out of chip bags, because the bullet's gonna puncture that.
I've been shot holding burritos before.
So German engineer Rudolf Schreiber gave an interview where he claimed to have designed an aircraft that was powered by circular turbine blades and could take off vertically.
Like just from a dead stop straight up in the air.
Yep, 0 to 60,
That's
3.5.
cool. That's something you hear a lot in like the UFO flying saucer thing. Is like it takes
And they can stop in midair without sound, right?
Yeah, and
So
hover.
it's dead silent, and then they can just kind of go wherever they want.
Shift.
And that's an interesting technology for sure. So they can take off vertically. Apparently these designs were stolen from his warehouse.
Okay.
Or his lab, or whatever he called it. And they were never to be seen again. But here's where the conspiracy theory comes in. These were the supposed designs of the Die Glock, or the Bell UFO, which was the conspiracy surrounding the secret weapon everyone thought that the Germans possessed during World War II, right? That kind of makes sense because they were capable of creating weapons like this. They were ahead of the game. We talked about this, and they even had their own rocket factory.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Werner von Braun ran a whole rocket. You know, he became a member of Operation Paperclip later, and the U.S. used him to get to the moon.
They did make huge technological strides before anybody else. In the book, The Morning of the Magicians, published in 1960, the author claimed that the Nazi Party partnered with other secret societies and developed these prototypes to make contact with alien life forms.
So Nazis wanted to hang out with aliens, eh?
There's also another conspiracy that says that the only reason that Germans and the Nazis were able to create all of these crazy things were because they got all of the blueprints from aliens.
That makes sense. Like, once you've done this so well, Mr. Bleedblop, we would love to know how you do that reverse propulsion engine.
When World War II ended, the Germans had several types of aircrafts and guided missiles under development. While most were in like the testing and unfinished stage, it's still said that if the war was to continue for a couple more months, they would have 110% won the war due to what they were trying to create. They just didn't have the time or manpower to do it at the time, right?
Is that because of the orthopedic power of Birkenstock sandals?
You know what? It was because of the orthopedic power of Birkenstocks.
We shall be victorious because of our superior arch support.
So at the end of this book, which is really interesting, they actually take all of the people who were partnered in to get these aircraft up in the air. They bring them into an underground lair to meet all of the new alien race that's inhabiting inner Earth. And that's how the book ends, which is really interesting.
So the Nazis are cool with aliens, but they're like no Jews. But
well,
aliens are
this
fine.
is what I was thinking. Supreme.
Supreme.
So you got the supreme white race, right? This is what they're trying to create. With the supreme gray or green race. And I guess that's kind of like...
So that's weird. Like, so Nazis try to make UFOs, basically.
Essentially. I mean, they did obviously create a few because it was documented that there were some weird surveillance stuff. And
weapons and aircraft, for sure.
So that, the Nazi UFO theory or portion is actually our friend Vulcan. He helped us kind of piece that part together.
Yeah, that's cool. So this is like my favorite part of this whole thing. Because I fucking love Area 51.
Yeah.
I think it's just like any alien conspiracy lover.
So many movies about it. There was going to be a raid, like...
Yeah. COVID. Probably just everybody was like, no, there's no Mountain Dew in the desert. I'm not going out there.
Right. All the keyboard warriors were like, I'll come, just kidding.
Wait, like, I actually have to physically go? No. Yeah. I wouldn't
Neither
want to go to
is
fucking
Spirit.
middle of Nevada either, though.
No. It's nasty.
It sounds terrible. Anyways, Area 51, sometimes referred to as Groom Lake.
Okay.
So it's this salt flat out in the middle of fucking nowhere in Nevada.
Yeah.
Like, just nothing lives there. It was a former nuclear test site.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, nobody goes anywhere near it anyways. So the government is, like, perfect spot to put a secret base.
A lot of the skeptics still believe that that's all it is, too, is a nuclear testing site.
Well, I mean, I think now even a skeptical person would have to admit that it's tested aircraft. Like, that's historical fact at this point. Like, it's definitely done more than that. But the United States Air Force started using this base in, like, the early 50s. Like, I think 1949, they started building the plans and digging the underground basement kind of things where they keep the fucking aliens. Anyways, so this is, like, the height of the Cold War. This is, like, everything is us against the Soviets, and it's a huge hub of innovation.
Yeah.
Like, they're coming up, they're breaking airspeed records every single day, like with what they're making, and they can't tell anybody because
Top
nobody
secret.
can know that they even work there. Like, I wonder what these guys tell their wives when they go home. They're like, "Oh, well, it's a tough day at the hamburger factory."
Right? Like,
yeah, like, "Oh, good, honey. Like, why are you covered in alien blood?" And you're like, "Oh."
And also, like, why do you make, like, $300,000 a year?
Yeah. Well, the hamburger factory does well, honey. Anyways, so tensions with the Soviet Union have been growing since the end of World War II. And the U.S. needs a new enemy because they're like, hey, that makes us a lot of money having an enemy all the time.
Always.
So, but this was a Cold War, so it wasn't really about, we're going to blow you up, we're going to, like, vaporize you, we're going to just beat you with espionage. We're just going to, like, make this an intelligence war. So the CIA enlisted the help of a man by the name of Kelly Johnson.
Kelly Johnson.
Kelly J. He was a former skunk works operator at our friend, not really our friend, Lockheed Martin.
Oh, okay.
The plane he went on to design at Area 51 was the U-2. So that was not the band with Bono, but a high-flying aircraft that would fly above Soviet radar and basically be able to capture high-resolution images going on in the Soviet Union without being detected.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah, so it flew at 70,000 feet, which no aircraft at the time flew. They flew around 30,000 feet. So this is twice as high plus as... But this is when shit goes top secret. Like, this is when they pretend that the base doesn't even exist. So, August 19th, 1955, Dwight D. Eisenhower signs Executive Order 1063, which effectively removes Groom Lake from any and all government or private maps. So it just does not exist. It's not on the radar.
People ask about it. It's not there.
Yeah, right. It's not a real place. So this is way before Google Earth, where you can, like, literally just go on your laptop now
and see anywhere in the world.
So this was before all that. So you could still keep that pretty under wraps. So later that year, Eisenhower declares the 60 square miles around the base to also be under strict government control. So nobody can even, like, camp out and try to look at the base from 60 yards or 60 miles away.
Right.
They have to try from, like, people still go to cliff sides now and, like, different, like, high up areas and, like, look with binoculars.
Yeah.
But back in the day, even up until 1993, you could get pretty close. May 1st, 1960. So this is right around all this time has, like, been spent developing this U-2 rocket. Or not a U-2 rocket, U-2 plane.
Yeah.
And nobody's supposed to know about it. The Soviets aren't supposed to know about it. They shoot one down. So the Russians have a U-2 that shoot down over Siberia. And all of a sudden, everyone in America knows that this plane has been developed.
Totally.
And they kind of, through process of elimination, figured out it's being developed at the
Area 51.
Area 51 Air Force Base. So by 1967, the government just flat out says that nothing involving Area... That's never existed. It's a total conspiracy theory. Anybody who talks about it is crazy. Like, it's just a wackadoo thing. Like, you guys are just stupid for even talking about it. That is also the same year that the U.S. shot down their first MiG-17. So this secrecy goes exponential at that point. Engineers working on one part of an experimental aircraft, like, though, like, working on the engine, if they're coming in, like, testing the ailerons or something for that aircraft, they all have to leave.
Okay.
And then the people developing the ailerons check the ailerons and test those. And then the next people who, like, develop the tail section come along. Like,
wow, so no one knows how to build the whole thing.
Yeah, nobody
just
knows
sections.
how the whole thing goes together. Exactly.
So interesting.
That's the whole point. So that's kind of the normal history of the base that's just definite, that doesn't have anything to, like, involve aliens.
Totally.
Or anything.
Yeah.
It's just a standard military secret that
yeah.
was kept during the Cold War, which kind of makes sense, I get that. But that comes down to Bob Lazar.
Okay.
So Bob Lazar is a guy who's claimed to have worked at Area 51.
Kind of like the time travelers that are like, hello, I'm from the year 2050.
Yeah,
and-
2015 or
Yeah.
Yeah. So most interestingly, this guy said that he worked at Area 51 and that he saw cadavers and autopsy reports as well as alien spacecraft and the propulsion systems that made them work.
Okay.
So he kind of sounds like he's full of shit.
Sure.
But the thing is, he's been interviewed by people who also worked at the base who said, like, asked him all kinds of questions like, what's the color of the paint in the hallway? Where's the cafeteria? Like, how do you get there from the main door?
He could answer all
Yeah,
of
and
these.
how many floors are in each building?
Damn.
Like, have you ever fucked that hot alien? And he was like, yeah, I've done all of those. I know exactly where they are. So people who work at the base are like, yeah, he's not, like, totally full of shit. Like, he could be lying about the things he saw, but he definitely at least worked at the base.
Right.
He also claimed that these antimatter reactors that were the propulsion systems for the alien ships ran on this undiscovered element, 115, which is now known as Moscovium, which is named after, like, Moscow in Russia.
Yeah.
Moscovium. But at the time, that element hadn't been discovered yet. But he said it runs on this element, and this is how you synthesize it, and if you synthesize it, you'll get Moscovium.
So he knew
Yeah.
all of that.
But the problem is, at least what we can do with Moscovium, it breaks down immediately. Like, it's incredibly radioactive.
We don't have the right tools.
That could be it.
Because it's not ours.
Yeah, because it's fucking aliens.
Oh
Yeah.
my
So,
god.
as far as I can tell, any time Moscovium has been synthesized, it breaks down within 3 minutes.
This is really interesting.
Yeah, and he specifically said it's a stable source of element 115. Like, it's a stable isotope.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to establish it.
Because there are millions of elements we've never discovered.
Yeah, and even, like, I hadn't even learned that you could synthesize an element until today.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was reading about that. But since then, like, stuff has just been cracked down on even more. Like, Bob Lazar is a whole, like, episode onto himself. Like, he's a super interesting dude. I don't know if he's crazy. People in the UFO community kind of consider him a disinfo agent. Some people. Like,
Okay.
Like, he's spreading crazy rumors so that people will just go, oh, he's full of shit. Like, the whole idea is crazy, and they won't acknowledge it.
It's like, even if what he said was true,
Yeah.
it's become this meme now, right?
Yes,
like,
yeah.
that's unfortunate.
Like
but
the ancient aliens hair guy.
yeah.
Aliens. Yeah. He's a little bit like that. But in 1993, the U.S. government finally had to admit that the base existed because a series of workers at the base had horrible skin burns
Right.
and horrible
We're talking
medical
about
conditions.
this.
Yeah. Where, like, their hair was just, like, falling out in clumps, and they just had boils and, like, horrible sores. And they went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, you have horrible exposure to toxic chemicals, and the only way for us to treat this is if we know what those are. And so they go to their superiors at their job, and their superiors are like, we can't tell you what that is. Like, it's top secret. We can't
That's
tell
so
you what you're
shitty.
supposed to. And they were literally forced to, like, dig pits with an excavator, put the barrels of chemicals in, douse it in airplane fuel, and then light it on fire.
That's so mental.
Yeah, and so, like, of course, being
So secretive.
Yeah,
Like,
and so this wind, they actually were so dumb that they did it downwind from the base, so that when they lit the fire, the whole wind came and blew over the base, and they called it London fog. Like, the workers were used
literally.
to it.
Yeah.
They were like, oh yeah, it's the London fog. It's like the horrible chemical gas that's being burned.
It's okay. I'm just casually blind now
Yeah,
since
and we're
working here.
inhaling it,
It's
and-
fine. My left
yeah.
lungs collapsed, but I'm good.
Those workers had to sue the government, and, like, step one was even getting the government to admit that it existed.
That's so crazy. Like, we've known forever that it
Yeah.
exists.
And it was even getting to the point where the first satellite images were available, where not everybody, but other people could be like, yeah, I can see it.
Right.
It's right there.
It's clearly right here. It's like holding up an apple and being like, do you see this apple? And they're like,
Yeah.
no, what do you mean? Your hand's empty. Like,
The government was literally doing that, though. They were literally, like, half admitting that it existed. They're like, yes, you experienced this problem on this base, and, like, you were exposed to this, but that base doesn't exist. They were, like, having their cake and eating it, too. That's crazy. Like, you
that's
can't
really
have
crazy.
both. But eventually the people won. Like, there was so many... They went under John Doe's because they were worried that the government would come after them. But they sued together, I think, like, 35 guys that worked there sued. They didn't even sue for damages. They just sued for their medical payments.
Yeah, and that I imagine that's like Bob Lazar as well. Like, he might have to say all these crazy things that no one will believe because, you know, the government might be after him for certain things and, like...
Yeah, I don't know. Bob Lazar's a weird one. There's a lot of stuff that surrounds him, for sure, in the UFO community. He's a controversial figure, put it that way.
Yeah.
Sure.
Speaking of the government not taking anyone seriously,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about Oumuamua.
Oumuamua.
Oumuamua, which is a crazy thing that happened in Hawaii. So in October of 2017, astronomers at the University of Hawaii saw a bright red, elongated object traveling through our solar system. This is the very first object that we have ever found outside of our solar system.
That's cool.
Yeah, right? Isn't that really neat? And that's
Yeah.
only in 2017. The object spun every 8 hours exactly and was at least 10 times longer than it was wide. So imagine like
That's
a
a good
tiny,
ratio.
yeah, a
For
tiny
lots of
little needle, right?
Yeah.
Steve.
Well, no, it's just what I've heard. Derailing the podcast.
They named it Oumuamua, which is the Hawaiian word for scout or messenger. If you are Hawaiian, I am so sorry if I am mispronouncing that. I tried to Google it, didn't come up. The university studied it and thought that it may be an operational probe sent into Earth's vicinity by an alien civilization to observe us.
That's cool, just a little spy out howdy doody.
So the strangest thing about this probe is that it deviated from an orbit that is shaped purely by the gravitational force of the sun.
Okay.
Which means it definitely wasn't a comet, because comets rotate based on the evaporation of ice on the surface.
Yeah, and it starts turning differently.
Right?
Based
So when
on
the
how
ice
much is melted
evaporates,
off.
yeah, the comet is pushed by the created gases, which is where we usually see comet trails.
Okay.
But you
That's
didn't.
that burning off.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But you didn't see it with this object.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be an asteroid because it rotated so specifically on one axis. So the questions arose of what was actually propelling this particular object. And that's what sparked so much curiosity. They thought it might be heat from the sun, but then it wouldn't be able to turn and
Yeah, it was
stop.
just an anomalous moving thing in the sky. Like,
Yeah, so
nobody
people were like, a UFO, right?
Yeah.
What the heck is this? So the chair of Harvard's astronomy department, whose name is Avi Loeb, he co-wrote the paper that documented all of the possible theories and findings about this object. Loeb had always been interested in extraterrestrial life, but was so angry that no one had jumped on board to study or photograph this interstellar object.
Nobody photographed it?
No one photographed it! It was there for like 3 months.
How did no one
For
do that?
3 months, and it was just like chilling there, and no one came...
Okay, Britney Spears flash for 2 seconds once in 2007.
And legit 27
people,
photographers.
Yeah, a million people have that photograph. We had a fucking awesome, could have been a UFO asteroid thing in the sky for 3 months and nobody was like, yeah. TMZ wasn't like, we should get this thing.
We should look at this.
Yeah,
like,
God damn it.
So, yeah, because when he contacted people, he's like, oh, it's too far. They were like, oh, it's too far gone. It's too far gone to...
So was Britney. Still
There
took
it is.
pictures.
Yeah, it's too far gone to take pictures. And I'm like, so is Britney.
Yeah, exactly.
He said, if these beings are peaceful, we could learn a lot from them. Why is no one here?
Yeah.
Like, so his plight now is to inform everyone that he can, so that we can be on the lookout and pay more attention to the next visitor.
This guy
Be
sounds like
prepared.
he does a lot of acid.
But he's like, this is
As
a guy
someone
from
who also
Harvard.
does a lot of
though.
acid, though.
Fair, but this is a guy from Harvard, and he's like, I think this is an alien spacecraft sent to spy on us, and people are
No,
like,
I love
probably
that.
not. Like,
That's why I think
people
he
just
thinks
dismissed
that.
it right away, right? But he had a quote, and I really like this quote, so I'm going to share it.
You should share that quote.
In science, we must ask ourselves, where is the evidence? Not where is the lack of evidence, so that I can fit it in any hypothesis that I like.
Okay.
It's kind of good. I like that. He got a lot of criticism about this, right? Like, a lot of people were like, hey, you're so smart. Like, why are you being so stupid? Like, especially all the skeptics and stuff, which I thought was really cool.
That's what everybody said to Darwin, too, though.
Some of these people probably have a lot of really good information to share, but they dismiss them immediately if it's, like, about aliens or about, plague
They're
or about...
disregarded in their time.
Yeah. I follow the maxim of Sherlock Holmes. When you have excluded the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. But when it comes to things we can't explain or don't understand, don't we often turn to concepts that do exist in popular culture and society?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's really cool.
I think that's like our first story when they talked about it being like a swine. They're just trying to relate it to something that it looks like or something
That they
can-
know of, right?
Yeah. And then later when people saw aliens, they're like, oh yeah, they all look like the movie aliens that I saw because that's what they think aliens look like.
Totally. It couldn't be like some purple 17-footed octopus-looking creature.
Well, it could be. That'd be cool.
It would be. But that's the only reason I picked octopus is because I know what one looks like, right?
You'd be like, hello, everybody. I smoke a pipe, and I know how to read in 3 different languages.
That you don't even know how to comprehend. So I have a really fun fact about NASA.
Okay. Never a straight answer. That's something to say in the UFO community. NASA, never straight answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. NASA hired a planetary protection officer that is responsible for making sure that Earth is safe from aliens.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, not the
Space
aliens,
Force.
right?
Yeah.
That's a good show. I don't know if you've watched that yet.
I haven't watched it yet.
Steve Carell. I wish it was like the little green and gray guys that we were talking about, but it's actually on a very much smaller microbial level. The job of a planetary protection officer is to clean labs and make sure that alien microbes didn't hitch a ride back to Earth after space travel.
That's cool.
But it's also their job to make sure that we don't contaminate space.
Interesting. I never thought about that.
Right? Because we don't want to be leaving shit over there.
No, of course not.
So what do you think a PPO earns per year?
120,000.
Okay, that's not bad. You're about $60,000 off. It's 187.
Really?
187.
They make more. I thought you were gonna be like 60 grand. Like shit, they should definitely make more than that.
No.
Defending us from space germs.
Currently, there are only 2 positions for this job. One is at NASA, and the other is at a European space agency somewhere.
Euro trash.
So before you think about applying, note that you'll need to have a resume that's
Pretty expensive.
out of this world.
Oh god. Like, do you? Like, it's like throwing a spoke in our bike tire. These jokes.
This is the guy who makes jokes about terrible things.
I didn't make a joke about it, and I think it's cathartic because I feel bad physically and I feel bad mentally.
It's just like you're punishing yourself for existing.
Yeah, for a little bit. It's good.
Oh my god. NASA scientists say that they're likely to find alien life in the next decade.
Oh, believe it when I see it.
How they want to do that is they plan to explore with rovers, like I guess like the lunar rover, but they're going to send rovers to get samples from like the oceans, the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, and just get samples from ancient space rock they haven't been able to get samples of yet. Okay. And they want to see if there's like any fossils or any living, because realistically, what are they called? The tardigrades?
Tardigrades.
Tardigrades, those guys.
They can
even
live in a vacuum.
Yeah, but even if you have those little guys, that means that they could grow into whatever.
Into anything all over the world.
Give it 1,000 years,
right?
and
well, a few million years, but yeah, they could evolve into something.
Oh, I'm saying, but give it 1,000 years, and you'd have like something a little bit bigger, because that's how evolution works.
It depends how small their population is.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But it might be kind of cool.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to see. Like, and I think like evolution. There's no reason why evolution would only happen on Earth. Like, I think if the conditions are right, then life finds a way.
Totally.
I've been playing a lot of Jurassic Park World.
You and your dinosaurs have it figured out.
It's aliens and dinosaurs are like my childhood obsessions that I've still kept at 25.
We're halfway there, man.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Steve.
Oh, fuck. What?
What did the alien say to the garden?
I don't know, Chase.
Take me to your weeder.
I like to let him sit. I like to let him fall to the ground. Just let him sit there, and I don't give you any reaction, positive or negative. And then you just laugh and laugh and laugh. And at first I thought it was a bit. I really did. And now I realize that you actually legitimately find these funny, and that makes it harder to be your friend. You can barely talk because you're laughing so hard. Okay, well, I have a question for you. If you could expose an alien to any human concept, never been to Earth before, and you're like, I want to show them this one thing that I think would freak them out, what would it be?
To freak them out, or just
to
expose
be like, this is
them
how weird humans can get?
That's such a difficult question. I wanted to say music.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I wanted to say, baby metal, where they, talk in little baby voices to really hardcore heavy metal.
Yeah, it's a kill switch engage.
Baby metal is something that confuses the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's a weird
if I was ever on, heavy-duty psychedelics, I would listen to baby metal.
I don't think I would. As someone who has been, that sounds horrible.
It sounds really bad, but I just need to know what the other part of my brain thinks about it. What about you? What would you expose them to?
Furry orgy.
They probably have weird sex anyways.
I don't think they have animal costumes, X.
No.
I just don't think that they
That's
do.
accurate.
And I think taking them to a group of people, like listening to reggae music and fucking in furry costumes, they're just gonna be very confused. They're like,
why did you take me to this horrible place? There's not even any chip dip here.
They just love fucking salsa.
Yeah.
Like, they're just, it's the best thing.
I love what you call salsa.
I have a question for you now.
okay.
I had the chance to talk to a friend that's a part of the alien subreddit and moderates the alien Discord, and I asked him a question that I thought he could provide some insight on because
Is he an alien?
he is. No, I'm just kidding.
That's a good interview.
He's been at the very core of the discussion on this topic, and so I'm going to ask you this question first,
Okay.
and then I'll let you hear his response. So do you think that, in your opinion, that there's a specific type of person that believes in aliens or extraterrestrial life? Like, perhaps people who have gone through trauma are more open to the possibility, or maybe those who have never been religious, just as examples.
Not really. I think maybe if you were religious and you still, like, want to have some kind of mystical experience, maybe.
Sure.
But, like, I think it's just fucking cool. I was into it when I was religious, and now I'm not. I'm still into it. So
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just my question. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
no, that's fair. What was his answer?
He said, it's hard to say.
That is hard to say.
I think it's a different mind, for sure. It ranges the full gamut from successful, productive individuals to people with severe mental issues. Kind of like you just said. Like, it's cool,
Everybody,
right?
Yeah.
I think that if one looks at things objectively, without bias, and is willing to have an open mind, they might be surprised at the possibilities out there. I also think that people misinterpret a lot of things our unconscious mind does behind the scenes as proof of extraterrestrial visitation. For example, the vast majority of abduction stories include the abductee falling asleep, waking up to being in a strange place where they're being tested on, and then have no memory of getting back home and waking up the next morning.
I've had nights like that.
Shambhala. No, I'm just kidding. The problem is that our subconscious is constantly gathering data and making calculations in the background as we go about our days, so our subconscious mind isn't exposed to that. If we walk by two people talking about, like, the latest Alien movie at some point throughout the day and aren't consciously aware of that, it's possible that our unconscious mind still gathered that information and may feed that to our conscious mind as we are, like, looking at something different. So if we see something in the sky we can't identify, then perhaps, we go, oh, it's an alien.
You fill it in with
UFO.
what you already know. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Mikey. That was a good answer. I like that. I don't think there's any one specific person that believes in aliens.
No, yeah, just like there's not like one specific kind of person that's into astrology. There's
Yeah.
like a lot of every woman I've ever dated that was into astrology. I don't get it.
What's your sign?
I don't get it. And then they're like, I'm a Gemini, and they're like, oh, you're two-faced. I'm like, well, I don't know. Probably. Fuck. I don't know. Jesus.
I guess you're a Gemini, hey?
Yeah.
I don't know much about astrology.
And then they're like, oh, well, our stars are compatible. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I just think you're hot. I don't know.
You're like, I just want a bone.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't care if you're a cow.
I'll be a damn Scorpio if you want me to, bitch. It doesn't
I'll
matter.
be a Leo. I'll be at anything. I don't even know what the hell are.
Oh my god. I love this topic. There's a lot of proof, and there's a lot of proof that isn't real.
Yes, there's a lot of misdirection as
A lot
well
of
as
in-between.
legitimate information.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We are really on the verge of discovering some cool things in space.
Yeah, we at least have the technology to be able to, right?
There are like 10 septillion planets in our observable universe.
Right.
You have to think, even if you're a skeptic, there's got to be some sort of life form somewhere.
Just probability-wise.
Just, yeah, statistically, like, it would only make sense,
And it would be cool to see if, like, life took on another, like, basic isotope to work with. Like, life on Earth uses carbon for everything. Plants, animals, everything uses it.
Right.
But it'd be cool to see another kind of way that... Because even, like, before the modern organisms that we have around evolved, like, not plants, but cyanobacteria were using iron to photosynthesize.
Yeah.
Like, before there was carbon dioxide, really, in the atmosphere like it is now. Even if that kind of life is just developing somewhere, like cyanobacteria or, like, bacterial gnats stuff.
Because you're very into the evolution part of...
Yeah. I'm really into evolution as well as aliens, so I think, like, the idea of evolution happening on other planets, which there's a great group of documentaries about speculative evolution on other planets. I forget what it's called. If you look up, like, speculative evolution alien documentary, it's by the BBC, I think.
There's
awesome.
tons, yeah.
It's great.
Something else I thought about is, I think, and Mikey mentioned this in our interview too, but aliens could have possibly come and visited us a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Like when we first started out, right? And then they kind of watched us. And like maybe they don't have the same emotional receptors that we do, and they don't process things as well, or they process them better.
Or they don't like run on serotonin and dopamine and like
right, and they run on something
neurotransmitters.
very different, or
Yeah.
more of like a logical,
Like
you
the
know.
Vulcans, like Spock.
Right.
Yeah.
And they watched us kind of just slip into this technological world, advancing in every portion of ourselves except for humanity.
Yeah.
And they were like, whoa,
Well,
we don't really want that anymore.
There's like a theory that I've heard a few times. Well, I guess it'd be more a hypothesis, but it's the idea that after we dropped the atom bomb, like the United States dropped the atom bomb, I guess, that's when aliens became interested in us. Like when we started doing nuclear testing that could destroy us or destroy planets. And they're like, oh, okay, what the fuck are you monkeys doing?
Yeah,
like,
I'm going to put you under a microscope for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because who knows? Like, we could be the cockroaches in someone's house.
I mean, if I was studying us and I was looking at everything from biblical times all the way up to now, and before biblical times.
Until we were both religious, like, we still think that.
Right, that's the beginning. Oh my god, I know, it's bred into my freaking brain.
Right, I totally know what you mean.
Sorry.
I know exactly what you're saying.
I do know that the world is not only 2,000 years old. I do just want to clear that up. On a side note, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But if you look at the entire timeline of humans, we've always been at war with each other. We've always hated each other. There's always been a reason to fight.
Kind of, but that was post-agricultural too, right? Like pre-agriculture, there wasn't enough of us, and there wasn't really a reason to.
Kind of, I guess. Like even the Vikings, for example, like when they came over to England and stuff, they would take all of their villages. No, for sure. I'm just saying, like they would take. They would burn and destroy all of the farms, everything, and they wouldn't keep anything. Then they would just leave.
Yeah.
Just for fun. Like,
or they just take everything that's valuable.
And then that they thought was valuable, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, even like the idea that you have to protect your own space. Like, if you have a surplus, then you have to protect that surplus. And that's kind of the beginning of the war. Like before, and even when war started, it wasn't necessarily killing each other. It was like more an intimidation act.
Totally.
It was like coming at each other and like shaking your shields and like freaking out, and then everybody, like maybe one guy, two guys get injured, and they're like, okay, fuck, call this off, because you have like 10 men in your tribe.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So you can't die.
Because that's literally like 20% of your population's gone. Like,
yeah, but then when you have thousands of people and life becomes dispensable, then war becomes more prevalent, I think.
Totally.
In history.
If you could ask an alien one question, you just watch this little flying saucer come down from the night sky and you're on a walk, and they approach you, and you can understand them, they can understand you telepathically, what would you ask them?
I can only ask them one question?
One question.
Do you get itchy?
Wow, yeah.
Like, do you also have to, like, scratch and get itchy? And they're like,
oh, we know what it is to itch. It is horrible. Do you ever get it on your nose when you have gloves on and you can't scratch it?
I'm like, fuck yeah, I know exactly. That's horrible.
Yes.
Yeah, I would relate to them. That would be something that we could relate on. And if they were like, no, we don't itch, then I'd be like, alright.
I want to legit know if aliens have hair. Like, if people or, like, beings on other planets have hair. Like, and I want to know what that looks like.
They just open their mouth and the only hair they have is, like, on the inside of their mouth.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry to anybody who also cringed, because I'm dying. I hated that.
Gross idea.
No.
I love that.
God. That's bad. But
to comb the inside of your mouth.
No, Stephen.
It looks like Mr. It. Your
teeth are hairy. They're just little hairs. Oh, God, I hate you.
Would you rather have teeth for hair or hair for teeth?
Oh. No, my head, I just felt my head and I could just feel like all these little weird, like smooth but hard rocks, and I'm like, oh. It's so bad.
You're way too suggestible right now. Like every horrible scenario I throw your way, you're like, I can feel it.
I think this is definitely part one of a larger series.
Of like alien subjects?
Yeah, I would really like to do a separate one on alien abduction.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe even go into a little bit more of Bob Lazar. And...
Yeah, I'd like to get into more of Bob Lazar. Like, he's super interesting.
I want to make a special shout out this episode to the r/alien subreddit and the Aliens Discord channel. If you guys are looking for an open place to explore your theories or share an experience, I would really recommend this community. Thanks again, guys, for all of your help with this podcast. They're a super positive place.
Yeah, and they're a bunch of cool guys.
Yeah, would recommend going to talk to them, and that's where Mikey and Volcan came in there. So.
And they're listeners too, as well. Right? They've listened to show?
Yeah, they listen to the show.
That's cool.
They support us. We support them. I can't thank you all enough for listening and subscribing to us. We appreciate the support and are so excited for what the future holds for us, intergalactic or otherwise.
I hope intergalactic.
I hope intergalactic, too.
I hope aliens are listening right now.
I want some
They're
space
talking
potatoes,
about us.
right?
They also call them potatoes. Sweet.
Bye!
Bye, everybody.